to the Building Success Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Ellis. Today I got with me Leece Faulkner. Leece is with MBI, or Months of Business Interiors. Leece, welcome, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Matt. It's good timing right now with us just celebrating our 40th anniversary yesterday. So yesterday was a jam-packed day, from people in the showroom to a roast and toast for my mom, Mindy, who started the business. 8 of her former employees came and just told stories from the old days, and it was really great for us to hear, and also our employees to hear about the culture back in the day. And it's just
Right.
wouldn't work the same nowadays. But yeah, things are
Yeah.
going great.
I did see your LinkedIn post this morning, actually, and was going to mention that you guys celebrated the 40th year. And you don't have to tell the story now, but I am very interested. You mentioned that your mom had a cop come and fake arrest someone. So next time I see you in person, you're going to have to give me that story, man, because I'm
Of
definitely,
course.
definitely a little curious. A
Yeah,
little curious about
I
that
couldn't
one.
find the picture
Um,
either, but it's there.
So MBI, or Months of Business Interiors, you guys do indoor office furniture, things like that. I know you went to UK, got a bachelor's in business administration. Tell a little bit more about kind of MBI and your journey there through UK and stuff. We'll get to
Sure.
that part of it,
Yeah.
but hopefully I captured the essence of it. I don't want to undersell it or oversell it, but effectively the interior office equipment, things like that.
Office, hospitality, healthcare. I mean, clients from, K through 12 schools to Churchill Downs, and then your executive offices. So all areas furniture. I'm starting to handle more of the GC side, doing casework and glass walls. So a lot of fun stuff.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into kind of your journey, I'd like to start it here with an icebreaker question. So the icebreaker question that we have for you today is, would you rather give a 30-minute presentation with absolutely no preparation, or you got to get up in front of the entire company, all of MBI, I think yesterday, and you got to go sing a karaoke song? Which one is it for you?
I can do either one.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I don't like to over prepare for presentations. It sounds rehearsed, and then I stumble on trying to remember what I was supposed to say. But karaoke is kind of my thing too. I mean, I can do that as well. And they actually, at
Okay.
our holiday party 2 years ago, we went to Patrick's, which is a great local karaoke spot in Louisville, and it's gone now. But all the girls were up there singing, and I was, oh, let me in there, like I'll sing. And all of a sudden, they go, you weren't invited to sing in this song, so sit back down. You can go next. So I got to go next after that. Yeah, so karaoke.
You're bringing the house down with karaoke. I can appreciate that,
I
man.
can I can do both. They won't be amazing, but we can do both.
I like it. I like it. So we talked a little bit about like where you went to school and everything. Your situation is unique with your mom starting and being the owner of the company. But can you tell us a little bit about your journey to get to MBI and where you are now?
Absolutely. Well, born and raised in Louisville, but been a huge Kentucky fan. So in that way, I was raised right. But then went to
That's
St. X for high
exactly. You
school,
were
which is
raised correctly.
yes. Then went to St. X for high school, which is your classic Louisville question. I'm sure Lexington's similar, but where'd you go to high school? People
Yep.
always ask that. So went to St. X and then ended up at UK. I was too big of a fan to go out of state. I was maybe going to be a Gamecock. I'm like, that's not going to happen. So went to UK, studied business administration. It was odd how my grades got much better when I moved right across the street from the business school than when I was down on a party street on University Avenue, down by State Street and all that stuff. So
Oh yeah.
that helped with the GPA and helped me land my first job out of school, which was at a company called Keyence, and I sold factory automation equipment, and it was a fantastic job. But something that I kind of wanted to attribute that success to is, I was at UK doing career fairs, and you stop and you talk to all the big companies that and some that maybe you're like, okay, maybe I'd be interested in that one. And then, one guy just grabs me. It's like, hey, come talk to us. And it was company called CED, Consolidated Electrical Distributors, and they're in Louisville and Lexington, kind of all over. But I ended up not getting offers from the other people I stopped at, the big names, the fun ones. I was with CED, and I was like, oh, great! Like, what is this? Then I learned about automation and different things. So the next career fair, I see automation on a sign, and end up getting an on-campus interview, fly me up to Chicago as the whole. I was like, this is awesome. So worked there for 3 years and I loved it. Actually met my wife there. I joked that I had to leave because she was going to become my boss. And you can't be my boss at home and in the office. That just doesn't work.
Exactly.
So instead, I thought it was a great idea to join family business where my mom can be my boss out of work and at work. So yeah, that was a bright
Yeah.
idea. Actually sat
Yeah.
between my mom and sister. I still do. So, which has been interesting. essentially, I did really well with Keyence. I loved where I was. I loved how I had carved my own path, and there was, I was going to be successful there. But just it became time for like career decision moment, and I asked my mom and sister, I'm like, hey, what do you guys have in mind for me? And we talked, and we actually talked about you last week, so it was good timing for me to bring up this question. And it ended up being a great opportunity, and I'm so glad I made it to join family business. It's a lot of fun, a little crazy, but the most important thing is having fun and being family.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. So I know, and I don't want to give too much away, but I know that obviously your sister's involved in the company. Now you're involved in the company. Your mom owns it. So your long term plans obviously are with MBI. As you kind of think about your leadership style, you've been able to see your mom do this now for 40 years.
Yep.
As you think about your leadership style and how that works with the company and our environment in today, how do you see yourself as a leader, and what do you think your leadership style is?
I think there's an aspect of servant leadership for sure.
Hmm.
Sitting down with your employees and the people that I don't like to say employees because I think I work with them, and it's always we're
Hmm.
a team. So it's like, how can I insert myself into this and not be an issue? Because I know some people probably don't want that extra help. But how can I do this? Look at things from a different angle. So primarily for me, I'm most involved in sales, but also project management. So I get in with the sales team and I'm just like thinking about accounts, thinking about different angles to attack a scenario, and then project management is just getting involved, doing the estimating, sitting, locking ourselves into a room for a few hours and just hashing things out, getting it done and solving problems. So I really like to work with people and just help be an asset for them, knowing that they can take care of it and get it done. But I just want to be an extra layer of help. I don't want to be
Right.
overbearing. So I think there's again an aspect to that servant leadership, but it's teamwork, working with them.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes a long way to your point. You're getting in there and you're getting your hands dirty, whether it's on an estimate or, you just talked about the installs and things like that. That goes a long way. And to actually have the knowledge of that piece of the business, but also
Mhm.
show that like when we're in a pinch and we got to get something done, I'm going to jump in and help out where I can as well.
I need to do a better job of getting my hands dirty with the install team. I haven't had as much time as when I first started, but every time I go to a job site, they're like, "Hey man, where's your tools? Where's your drill?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry guys." So I need to do a better job of that. But when we installed Churchill Downs, for instance, doing all those suites, it's just a lot of pushing furniture around.
Yeah.
It's all, high quality lounge, more resimercial, I'll say. So it's like
Right.
being there and helping to direct a job site. I'm not just gonna stand there and point and, I'm gonna try to move things. And so, yeah, I guess in that way is getting your hands dirty, but it's been a lot of fun. So I'm actually taking the kids out to lunch after this today, and we're gonna give them the Friday of Oaks off
Okay.
because we had a record year. So we're taking the front office to 50 Tuesday and actually enjoying some of the areas that we furnished, and just doing that as a little celebration.
And that whole week, the whole Derby week is so interesting. We've got obviously got a Louisville office, and even being in Lexington, only an hour away, you don't realize the impact the Derby has that entire week
Yeah.
until now that we've got that office. There's Derby, and then obviously Oaks Day has become. I mean, it's nipping on the heels of Derby with the amount of people that are there. It's pretty crazy.
Well, now that Oaks race is like 8:30 this year, so it's a
Oh wow.
late race. Restaurants are unhappy about it, but yeah, I mean that whole week has been so commercialized now. You really got to go Tuesday and Wednesday before it's just all out of towners. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. So thinking back on, you talked a little bit about your leadership style, and I'm curious in your current role. You said you're a lot involved in sales and project management. Obviously, you're in a leadership role, and you're going to continue to be in leadership roles at MBI. What is your take when you talk when you hear the buzzwords of culture and strategy?
Mm.
You hear that so much. I'm thinking strategically, or culture is everything. I'm curious from your perspective if you think one is more important than the other, if you lean more towards one. Is just kind of curious to get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, you said buzzwords, but everyone says culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
there's definitely a mix, and I think it depends on, what aspect are we talking about? For we talked about hiring before we hopped on, and I think you have to hire if you have a good culture, you have to keep that because I do think it's the most important thing. Because when things are maybe not going well or are really busy and you need people to be able to band together, that's when you have to have that good culture or else people won't band together. And then, as an owner, Ellie and my mom and I are sitting there left with this problem without the help of all of our great people. So I think culture is more important and it's harder to attain. So if you can also implement good strategy behind it, that's even better.
I tend to agree. I think having people that are bought in to the culture and are kind of, I take the mentality of running through a brick wall for someone. What you talked about banding together, if you have a good culture and you have people that are like, yeah, man, you're going to point the way. And if it means running through a brick wall, we're going to run through a brick wall. That can make you unstoppable as a company. I
Oh
mean, it
yeah.
really can. And obviously, it doesn't downplay the strategy piece of it, like you said. You got to still have
Mhm.
the strategy piece and make sure that you're putting fresh ideas and fresh perspectives and thinking through things. But I'm with you, man. It's a significant culture thing. And I think it's more than just a buzzword now.
I think it's very important and it's really defines your company from new business, existing business, and even again, new employees. It is a magnet for a lot of great things. If it's good, and if it's bad, it really pushes a lot of those things away.
For sure. Yeah, 100%. I want to talk a little bit about kind of some of the leaders that you've had in your life. I know, again, I go back to your situation being pretty unique in that your mom owns the company, has owned the company, started the company,
Yeah.
and owns it now 40 years later. I'm curious who has been an influential leader for you in the past or who is an influential leader now, if there's
Mhm.
someone that kind of comes to mind when that question is asked to you for, from your perspective.
My parents did a great job instilling drive in me at a young age. I didn't always act on that drive throughout, college and high school and things like that. But once you're getting ready to graduate and you've been just living on not a lot of money, like you can buy a Jimmy John sandwich and there goes, a tenth of your money for the week that you need to live on. So I think that I had that drive there, then realizing I'm like, okay, not having money isn't fun, but you kind of need to have it to do everything else that you want to do. So
Mhm.
I think, my parents were great mentors and leaders in helping me with that. And then, mom as an example of 40-year-old business that she brought out of the ground herself. It's crazy to think that 40 years ago, she was 28, which is my age. And that's
Yeah.
when she was like, I'm just going to try to do this. And here we are 40 years later, multiple different showrooms, another second location in Lexington. She's got two children that are working in the business who are, I think we're doing a good job. I know my sister is doing a fantastic job as president of the company. And it's a funny point. She always in meetings, we point out that we're a woman owned business at WBE. And she goes, and we always will be, and then always stares at me. So that's just kind of
He's driving that
the
point home.
groundwork there. But yeah, I would definitely say my parents were great mentors, and I'm just so impressed by what my mom was able to build, and her former employees came to celebrate this. Watching them all walk in and talk like no time had passed was just really special to see. So I'm just continuing to see her as a role model for me in this family business journey.
That's really awesome, and kudos to your mom for taking that chance at 28 years old.
Makes
That
me
that
feel
takes a
pretty
lot
bad.
of
I'm like,
gumption.
what am I doing?
I hear you, man. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had, whether that was at MBI or before you got there in college or whatever. What's a work related challenge
Yeah.
that you've had to navigate, and how'd you navigate it?
Absolutely. I think a challenge that I've had just with joining family business, was, you're not a typical employee. There's just more that's required. I would come from corporate America where it's guardrails, and you know your role. You know exactly what you're supposed to do in the machine. And you get to family business and those guardrails do this a lot more. In my first week, I go, you know what, Ellie, that's not my job description. I don't need to do that. She goes, well, that's not really how that works here. So, but to really get more specific, it would be this position was not one that existed before. It was you're doing new business development, getting your name out there and trying to bring in more business, but also managing the install and making sure that we're delivering on the promises that I told them about from the very start.
Right.
So, which is cool because I get to kind of make sure that we do deliver on those promises and I'm involved throughout the entire process. But with the role being, created for me and not really being a job description, there was a lack of clarity from the get go. And at this point, mom is semi retired, spends a lot of time in Florida.
Uh-huh.
So, I was just kind of figuring things out on my own, which was challenging for sure because you're sitting there and you want to be like really valuable, but you're like, I don't know exactly how to make this work. And thank goodness I've got the clarity now. And it's just my ideas and are just exploding of what we can do with MBI and how we can grow and just the fun that we can have. But for
Yeah.
instance, when Ellie joined the business 8 years before me, her first full year was Mindy's shadow. So she just followed her around and learned the business. And that wasn't necessarily there for me. So, but it was good because I was able to teach myself and just get a better understanding of everything. I think it probably helped with my progression a little bit faster now and the way I'm progressing now because I had to really derive this understanding myself.
It's very interesting that you say that, and I've told this story a lot, and I've always been a checklist guy and somewhat regimented in my day. And as I have progressed with Ace, starting back president, even before that, when I was the vice president of operations, your day is never the same anymore.
Yeah,
And I think back to when I started here and I could come in and I understood that I had a schedule to do or a delay claim to do or whatever. You get that done, you check that box for the day, and it's like, all right, I got that done. And now, to your point, no 2 days are the same anymore. They look completely different. You might have your big projects we're working on or little things like that, but there's a curveball getting thrown every day,
you're not
and
dealing
you're
with
like,
normal
man, you
problems.
gotta
Yeah,
and it's a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge, and I don't think you have to. I was told that like this is the way it's going to be, but until you live it, you don't really understand it. And
sure.
so that was a tough one for me to pick up on and to get out of my comfort zone of just being able to check some boxes on the checklist of a to do list for the day. So I
Absolutely.
feel your pain on that one.
Yeah, I think that makes we're in a very similar boat. Once you go from your first role that you have, and then you get into this leadership room, and you kind of understand why things are done the way that they are, but it's not common problems. It's different all the time, and you're having to deal with
Correct.
and learn just how to deal with stuff on the fly rather than stuff that's in your project. Like typical problems that happen, then there are some unique ones in a project, but it's all related to the same thing. When you get into leadership, it's just like, well, okay, here we go. I'll try to figure out how to, I don't know what it is. Yeah. So,
I want to talk a little bit about, or I'd like for you to talk a little bit about your journey, whether it's 5 years, 10 years. You mentioned your mom, semi-retired, spends a lot of time in Florida. Your sister's the president of the company. Where does Leece want us, go in 5 or 10 years? Where do you want MBI to go, in the next 5 to 10 years?
yeah,
If you could talk a little bit about that.
absolutely. When I joined MBI, I had the full intention of carrying on the legacy that mom built and carrying on the name and hoping to have a third generation, which is the generation that I think typically loses the company, but maybe get them in here. I'm in a leadership role. My title is strategic partnership manager. I mean, we could change titles or do whatever, but I don't think any of that's really necessary. It's just continue to do what I'm doing, grow people, grow myself.
Mhm.
Really, I want to grow that legacy, that name of when people think about furniture in Louisville and Lexington in the state of Kentucky. Like MBI is a name that people just know. Um,
Right.
and I really think that with what we're doing, the culture that we have, and just the way that we're building relationships and having, two owners with my sister and I meeting and talking to a lot of people. I think we're on our way to that. There's still a lot to go. And then Lexington's going to be a whole nother animal. I know people from college. I went there, but I didn't live there, with a family and grow up and know generations of people. It's really exciting. And I really hope that in 5 years, we've got multiple employees down there and we're considering signing a lease at another building because we need more space. But it's all things I'm excited about. It's just a lot of growth. And I'm not excited about the challenges that we're going to face because they're going to happen. But I'm excited knowing that I've got my sister and my mom. She'll never fully step out, but the three of us should be able to really handle and weather any storm that comes our way. And just knowing that brings me a lot of excitement.
That's really awesome. So kind of putting a bow on it, man, I'd like the opportunity for you to tell people how they can connect with you and MBI, whether LinkedIn, website,
Yep.
whatever. So want to give you an opportunity to plug MBI a little bit.
I appreciate you inviting me on this podcast. This has
Yeah.
been great, and it's just more internal reflection for me. I'm on LinkedIn, MBI's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I think we're really focusing them most on LinkedIn and Instagram. Not into the TikTok dances just yet, but a lot of people are successful with that.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and then, our website, just look us up, Munson Business Interiors or MBI Furniture. We've got showrooms in Louisville and Lexington. Happy to meet with anyone and come see our awesome spaces.
Before we wrap up, man, do you have a favorite leadership quote or a favorite book or anything that you can let the viewers know about that they may want to check out?
And I'd have to think. I believe it's Henry Ford, right? Where I think whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. I think that one's
Yes.
super easy.
I think that is
But I remember it, and that's about one of the few that comes to the top of my mind right now. But I do think there's a lot of truth to that. And sometimes I'm not the most optimistic. So that is a quote that just reminds me, like, hey, you got to will things into existence.
Well, Leece, again, man, appreciate you coming on. Thank you. We'll let everyone go. This has been the Building Success Podcast with Matt Ellis, and tune in for the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.